Hello, welcome to the VIP.Access. This is an insider's exclusive look into the powerhouses not only of South Florida, but around the world, who are making change, who are influencers, not only in their craft, but something that they are doing beyond. And only with one Sotheby's Abaunza.Group, headed by our leader, Saddy Abaunza, multi-million-dollar producer, will you get access to people and places you've never seen before.
Well,
Hi.
welcome. Hi, George. How are you?
Indeed.
First of all, I want to welcome you to the VIP.Access. The reason we're VIP is because we're going to start showing people and present people something that they don't know about you yet or is not as known about you. I've been selling your homes for over 30 years, and I find that this small detail about you that is transitioning into your life is something our VIP clients want to hear, which is the sacred spaces that you're starting to design in all the private schools. And I want you to talk to us about those chapels and sacred places that you're doing.
Well, thank you. It is a new turn, so to speak, in my career. I mean, I have a boutique firm, as you know.
Yeah.
We do a whole cadre of things, but the specialty of the firm has always been the custom residential work. I've in fact had restored a synagogue once, but as of recent, I went to Santiago de Cuba recently to help in the reconstruction of 12 colonial churches that form really the backbone of Santiago.
Wow.
And that was done, as an act of altruism. It's, just to help after Hurricane Sandy. And somehow that triggered, in ways unexplainable, the beginning of people approaching me about designing sacred spaces, churches.
So you did something out of charity and love and passion, and it turned out to be your future and your pattern and what you're trending to do now.
Yeah.
Tell us about the schools in Miami that you're doing and what type of projects you're doing in the schools here.
Yes, so there are 3 schools that I'm working with currently. The first one that asked me to help them was Belen Jesuit Preparatory School. I graduated from Belen, so it's a kind of home for me. Belen certainly has been a spiritual home for me. And the president and the principal of the school, Father Willie Garcia Toñón, and I was honored, and it has been a beautiful journey. One that, in a way, of all of the churches that I've designed for the schools here, that one in a way is more biographical, because I have life memories of growing up, not in that school, because I was at the other end of 8th
campus.
Street. Yeah, but in that environment.
It's got a special...
in that energy, in that environment, in that spiritual place. So that one was special. So I'm doing a chapel for 600 for Belen.
Wow.
It's very special because there's a lot of art being commissioned for the chapel. And
donated by
the Belen community. Yeah, which is an extraordinary community in the city. And then the second chapel that I'm doing for a school is for Palmer Trinity.
Wow.
The Episcopal school down south. It's interesting, there seems to be that sweet spot of 600 seats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's also...
That's a magic number.
That's a magic number for the moment.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing a chapel for them, and that's very special because that's a place down south which is close to the Deering Estate, and the natural context of the place is beautiful. So that one is inspired more on the natural surroundings of the campus.
Right.
And
so it's got a different vibe,
and the communities are different, and the traditions are different.
The landscape is different, everything.
Yeah. And then thankfully now, most recently, I'm working with St. Agnes in Key Biscayne.
Wow.
Yeah, they're doing also a church for 600, and they're doing a gym. But the issue there, which is very interesting, is the structuring of the campus, because the campus needs a little restructuring, but also the whole level of sea level rise.
Oh, wow.
So each of them, the one for Belen being Jesuitical, there's a narrative expressed in art, which is a tradition of Jesuits in the New World.
Right.
Then the one for Palmer Trinity is really about Genesis, the natural world in the sacred.
Wow, that's
and then the one in Key Biscayne is really about, what we do with what Genesis gave us now. How do we deal with sustainability, sea level rise, community?
So how, as an architect and a professional, how do you transition to creating the sacred space of a residential home, which is what we sell, a sacred home for everybody, or the sacred space of a chapel in a church? Like, how did you just start designing and creating that from the residential end to the spiritual end of the church?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Both of them are ancient building types. The parallel of that in the home actually is that I see homes as portraits. So if I think of myself as the portrait artist, I have the subject, who's the client, the setting, which is the land, and I'm to build a portrait of that family, in essence. So in that sense, the sense of portraiture, residential design as portraiture, parallels the notion of sacred space, the design of sacred space as belonging to this long tradition of form and rule.
You interpret the family into a canvas or a home or whatever you design.
Yeah. There is a voice,
beautiful.
there's always a voice of the patron.
Right.
Whether the patron is a community or an individual or a family. You can't erase that. In fact, you'd be foolish not to listen to it.
And everybody talking about homes, everybody has their needs, every family lives different.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some requirements that everybody tells you, just like when you were building the churches, there was requirements, that you needed to meet.
Yeah.
Another question I wanted to ask is in the theme of the residential business, which is what we do as a group. In the residential business, what is the trend that you're seeing now that people are asking you? Obviously, people buy this beautiful property. They have to decide what architect they choose. You're the chosen one. What are they telling you? What are the things that you're noticing that is different, let's say 5-10 years ago, that people were asking you for?
What I'm seeing is people are building, I think, smarter, better fitting homes. I think people still build very large homes if they want them, but I think they're more cognizant of how they want to live. Somehow what I'm seeing anyway is they define themselves as a family unit or even a couple more clearly when they engage in the journey of designing and building a home.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm seeing is a return to some nuance of spatial layering. So the big
What does that
open, instead of course, the spaces that are desired are still open, very much oriented towards the outside, like this one, and so on. But there's an interest in nuance. There's an interest against in nuance or spatial layering. So you don't see the entire story immediately. The story is revealed to you.
Little by little, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a sophistication about that.
Yeah. I think that your arches and your outdoor spaces and the way you make a home feel homey and you give it that texture, you could drive by any street in Miami and say, that's a George house. You're very unique in your architecture.
Well, thank you.
So I gotta say too, the trend has been for the buyers is also the spaces are they know what they want. And when they come to you, I'm sure as a custom made buyer or client, they know what they want already.
Sure.
So,
the other thing that I see as a trend is people are also very cognizant of the environment. So they build efficiently, they build with sensitivity to the environment.
Which that didn't happen 10 years ago.
Or maybe 15 or so. I mean,
Right.
it should always happen.
Yeah.
And then sometimes momentarily we become insensitive to it. One of the very simple things that I'm seeing is the ratio of outdoor living space to indoor living space has approached closer to 50-50.
Right.
Whereas before everything was air conditioned and air conditioned. Now people are figuring out a nuanced way of living, and also with the product.
Right.
You can throw, like those doors, you could throw them open.
Right.
And you're on a day like
And
today,
you can still own
your
a
living
big
room is outside.
piece of property
Yeah.
in Florida.
Yeah.
You don't have to live in these little cubes, and so you need to enjoy the outdoor.
Yeah. So I think that those are the trends I'm seeing.
So basically, George, I want to thank you so much for being here with us. I want to thank you for sharing with the VIP group that is going to listen to your beautiful interview, and let everybody know what you're doing with all these sacred spaces, that they're going to be sitting in one of those 600 chairs one day.
Okay.
And they're going to be all designed by you and inspired by you. I even get shivers right now, this 1 second.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I want to thank you not just for inviting me, because you could be busy selling homes, but that you took the time to take this initiative to start something new that doesn't, at least in the case of me, of course I relate to your business, but to bring to the public attention interest points of what's happening in this town. And so I think that's what distinguishes the Abaunza.Group.
Well, we want to educate everybody and show them the best of the best in our area. And that's why we are the VIP group and we are the Abaunza.Group. So if you guys ever need anything, George is here, I'm here, and thank you so much for joining us.